Welcome to the Uncommon Woman radio show. My name is Marlo Ellis, visionary at the Uncommon Woman, transformational speaker, coach of divine feminine leaders, and founder of Soul Sister Retreats. Every Monday and Thursday, I will bring to you an uncommon woman whose story of strength from struggle will inspire you to break through those blockages that have been holding you back, so that you can turn your pain into your superpower. Join us if you're ready to be energized and transformed, as these conversations will move you into massive action, the kind that creates a life full of the stories that you love to tell. Sister, you are about to embark on the most important journey of your life, the journey into the uncommon woman that you truly are. I am so excited to help you get started. I'm ready if you are. Hello, everybody. Marlo Ellis coming to you live here on the Uncommon Woman page. I'm the founder and visionary of the Uncommon Woman and the Uncommon Woman movement. And I am so incredibly blessed to be here today with KM Johnson Davis. Johnson. Hi, KM. How are you? It's been a crazy few minutes before we jumped on. So how are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you, Marlo?
I am incredible. I just want to just stop for a moment and just, kind of send all the gratitude out to you, because we're jumping on a few minutes late. We had a little bit of a tech issue. What was supposed to be a radio show is now a Facebook Live. And so this is how it rolls when you run your business online. So I just want to say thank you for being patient while we figured things out. So here we are. It is incredible to have you here today. I know that you and I have been kind of Facebook friends for a while, and it's so fun to actually sit down and have an opportunity to talk to you and to learn about who you are and everything that you do and everything that lights you up. And I know that you are doing incredible work in this world. So thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
From the universe. I'm speaking for the universe. I feel like it's fair to do that right now. So before we get started, I just wanted to read a little bit about your bio, because you have such an interesting background. And then we're going to get started. We're going to dive right into all the juice. So first of all, KM is coming to us from Frisco, Texas. So she's up in the warmth, and it's a little springish where we are here in Ontario, Canada. But anyway, so KM Johnson Davis, your visionary leader, is a CEO and founder of KM Johnson International, which is a coaching and consulting firm that specializes in teaching entrepreneurs and business leaders how to do life, business, and faith by design. She's an internationally known motivational speaker, a consultant, an author, a minister, and an entrepreneur. She has served as an officer in the U.S. Army, been the business operations manager for a Fortune 500 company, and ran 2 successful businesses along with her ministry. Now, I know that you also had a radio show, right? Which was called Faith by Design. So obviously you are somebody who loves to share her message and get all of that goodness out there to the world. So can you back up? Let's back up a little bit and talk about, first of all, what got you to this place that you are in right now, doing the incredible work that you're doing and really trying to change lives and touch lives through ministry?
Honestly, Marlo, it just kind of started with when I had something happen in my life that was, so devastating, that said, okay, you know what? If I'm going through this, and someone else may be going through it. Mm-hmm. And so how do I share that with other people, and how do I help them through their situations? Because everyone doesn't always have someone there to help them. And,
oh my gosh, exactly.
Yeah. So that's where that kind of started.
Okay. All right. So tell me a little bit about, what your story is, because of course the Uncommon Woman is a storytelling platform. And I know that you have a lot of story, because even just looking at your bio, I'm like, oh, this could get really juicy. We could probably stay here for hours. And especially, I know that you were involved in the Army. And so, being a woman in the Army, like so many things, right? We could probably have a whole other show about that. But
yes, we could.
If you could share a little bit about, kind of like your breakdown, because that's where all of your genius, where you are now, where you are today. I feel like it's all coming from those places in you, right? The experiences.
It's usually like, I think that when we first start talking about like why we ended up doing something and where we are, we always go to like that one big meat clincher, but we forget that when we were born and the circumstances that we were under kind of shaped and molded us. And for me, I was born in Mississippi to two lovely parents. They were young, my mom and my dad, but they only had me. And then they divorced and then they remarried and then they had all these other children. And it's kind of like that whole black sheep, of the family story. But, I kind of spent my life trying to say that I would not be a statistic. That kind of became my song, my theme song, throughout elementary school, throughout junior high, throughout high school. I won't be a statistic. Yes. No matter what, I will make sure that that I defeat those odds. And so, that kind of drove me throughout my life. And I think that built the foundation of who I was as a person. But then, there also comes a time where you like, for me, I was always achieving things. I was always, the overachiever. I was always successful, in high school. I graduated with high honors. I got a scholarship while I was even in the military, like all kinds of awards and accolades and all these things were coming. But then it came to an end. There came a point in my life where I wasn't getting recognized. I wasn't getting the awards. People didn't think I was so great anymore, and it was just, like I was fighting to become relevant. And the moment that I think that it all sunk in for me, which kind of gets to what we talked about before we got on the call, is when I moved to Houston, Texas. I moved there I went the roundabout way. I was living in New York, in Manhattan, after Hurricane Katrina, where the company I was working for so graciously relocated me to. And I wanted to start a business and everything, I didn't know how to do it there. I didn't know where to go. And so I chased a man. How many of us have done that in our lives? And I won't say chased. I went to where a guy I was dating was living. He didn't live in New York. Right. He lived in another state and I went there. Right. And, I packed up everything I had thinking that I'm about to move here for this man. And, to be perfectly honest, when I got there, he didn't even answer his phone.
Oh my gosh.
So that began, like, I think just a series of events in my life. When I look at it now, I'm just like, I can't even believe I did that. But
my gosh. Right.
But I did.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was love. I went.
Right.
So, he didn't answer his phone. But luckily I wasn't too dumb. I did have a friend there and I stayed with her and I was there for 30 days. And during that 30-day period, I began to start trying to put the pieces together for my business. Now, this was in the state of Washington. I ended up leaving Washington, driving all the way down to Houston, Texas, and, thinking that I had everything lined up for me, a job, place to stay, everything, trying to recover, still, in that recovery mode from that disappointment, only to find out that the job I had lined up fell apart.
Okay.
I ended up losing that job. I ended up losing my apartment behind that. And I lost everything.
Right. Exactly. And I know that I had said to you before we came on the call that, this is one of those stories that so many women tell me, and they'll say, but, there wasn't like, I didn't lose a limb or I didn't lose a child or there wasn't, and they somehow want to compare that kind of a story, to your story or to their story. And I'll say, this is the thing, is that everybody's journey is different. And, losing everything is devastating. And I have been in that place. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what it feels like to have something, you have your eyes on this vision or this beautiful goal that you believe is going to roll out. And you have this whole idea of how it's going to look. And then when you get into the guts of it, it doesn't look anything like that. And, in your case, you basically were kind of left to start over, it sounds like. And how do you do that when you had already imagined that your life would look a certain way in this certain place? So that is really hard on the soul, especially if you're coming from a place where, sounds to me like you'd always been a high achiever and you were somebody that always had things kind of figured out.
So this was a massive test for you, right? Because you had to drop into a real humble space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, and for the longest, I've really thought, just like what you said, my story doesn't compare to anyone else's, but it's not even really about that. It's about your own personal journey and what it took you through and what it brought you to and what you learned from it. And, and so, yes, it brought me to this space where I had to realize that all of the things that I had depended on, my plan A, B, and C, were now gone. And now I have to depend on D, E, and F, which most people don't even have, And so it's like, I didn't know anyone. When I first moved to Houston, I had a relative that had said that I could come stay with her, but she didn't want me to stay there anymore. It was like, honestly, when I'm telling you, like, for me, it was pretty bad. I ended up living in a house for battered women. And it was actually a house that had been positioned for that, but no one was living there at the time. And a teacher that I had came across during, my business training, she offered it up to me because she was the one who owned that house. And she said, well, no one's living here right now, so you can stay there and watch over it for me until you get yourself on your feet. And that right there shows me that you never know who you're going to come across in life that may be there to help you along the way. Don't discredit anyone. Don't discredit any interaction. Don't discredit any, any relationship that you have, because not saying that, you need to look at every relationship for a need purpose, but sometimes we're there for them and sometimes they're there for us.
Absolutely. It's symbiotic, right? And I know, for example, in my own personal journey that so many people dropped in there that were randoms. I like to call them the random angels, right? They just dropped in, but they gave me such a great gift. And so I understand how important those people are. And they seem to show up they seem to show up at the right time and give us exactly what it is we need, which I think kind of leads us into your whole message of faith and purpose, because, I know that faith is a really big piece of who you are and your own personal message. But I asked you when you and I were arranging for you to get on this call, I said, I'd like you to take a picture. And on that I'd like you to get a pen or marker or eyeliner or something and write a word, just one word that comes to you when you think of your story. And you hesitated and you said, oh, I think it's going to be really good. And you wrote purpose on your arm. And I love your picture. And I want to ask you, how does purpose connect to your story? What about your story now has kind of catapulted you into living in such purpose and such faith?
Honestly, because I have to always think about the one thing that always runs through my mind. I told you a little bit about my story from, as a child and then, as an adult. And what always runs through my mind is that it had, in order for something to have to happen, that means there's purpose in it. And so I just, that's kind of what keeps me going, is knowing that every single stage and everything that's happened in my life, there was purpose behind it, to get me to the next place, or, to have me meet this next person, or whatever the case may be. But just knowing that there is purpose. And I wake up every morning, and if something negative happens, I'm like, well, there's got to be purpose in it. There's something about this that I'm either going to learn from, or, I'm going to grow from, there's something in it. And so purpose, that definitely represents who I am, every experience I've ever had, even now.
Right. So can you talk a little bit about, the steps that you went through? Because I believe that there will be women that are either here now or will watch this on the replay, and they're going to resonate with your story of losing everything and really like having nothing, kind of floating, looking for answers, trying to figure it out, trying to get grounded, right? So what were some of the first steps that you took? So you found yourself in this house, in this home that had been kind of gifted to you by the person who owned it. What did you do from there? What was your next step?
Now, when I say that they allowed me to stay in this home, let me make sure I point out that this home was not in the best place, the best part of Houston. It was actually in the worst part of Houston, but so I really had to humble myself. I was in surroundings that I'd never been in my life. I was in an environment I'd never been in my life. So the first thing I would say is I had to exercise humility. I had to humble myself and say, this is the position that you are in. But then came from that, my statement, you are not the situation you're in. And so I had to tell myself, this is where you are. So humble yourself and accept that this is the